Assalamualaikum, we are from Group 1. Today we will be presenting about library management system. So the campus is Tun Abdul Razak Library, which is located in UITM Shah Alam. As for the team member, our team member consists of 4, which is Anur Baiduri binti Ahmad Jamrin, Joanisha binti Jarfis Rory, Nurfatin Shazwani binti Anwar, and Siti Nurfaziliah binti Jumali. The company that we have choose is Tun Abdul Razak Library. Tun Abdul Razak Library is also known as a UITM Main Library, which is located in the main campus of UITM Shah Alam. This library was inaugurated by the second Prime Minister of Malaysia, Abdul Razak, on 29 July 1972 and was named the Tun Abdul Razak Library in his honors. In this library, each book has its own information such as book title, book author, book publication year, price of the book, and the quantity of the books. If there are books that have just arrived at the librarian will log in into the system and register the information of the books into the records. Other than that, the students can also access the system by just logging in using their student ID into the UITM library system to search for the book, and by typing the title of the books and the authors and also the publication year to make it easier to find the books. As for the borrowing, students can borrow the books for a month at the librarian counter, and every book loan will be recorded into the system by the librarian on duty at that time. As for the problem statement, first is an issue with loading the reports and giving error message as it requires high internet speed and large storage to use the system smoothly. Second is some books have an incorrect information so that the librarian find it difficult to edit, remove or update the book's information. Third is it will take a lot of time for a student to simply borrow the books because they need to travel to others' library to search for the books. About the objective of the projects. First is the librarians can easily create, manage, retrieve, update and save information of any book. Second is to improve the system and solve the problem or issue in regarding to the access limitation from the system. Third is the student or librarian can just use the system without high internet speed or large storage.
Now I am Siti Nurfaziliah. Honestly, we continue for explaining business rules and ER diagram part for our library management system. Basically, this is our business rules before we produce our ER diagram roughly. So, to make me more clearly presenting the business rules, I will explain the business rules together with the ER diagram. For the overall side of ER diagram, we have 5 main entities with 2 bridge entities and 2 subtypes for book entity, which are fiction and non-fiction. I start explain from the left to the right of the ER diagram. Let's take a look for number 1 and number 2 of business rule. Each student can make many or one borrowing, and the second one, each borrowing can be made by one student only. This is one-to-many relationship. The primary key for student is student ID and the borrowing primary key is borrow ID. These borrowing entities has attribute foreign key, which are student ID and librarian ID. Next, take a look for third and fourth business rules. Each borrowing is managed by one librarian and each librarian manage one or many borrowings. This is one-to-many relationship. For the librarian, there is a librarian ID as a primary key. For the fifth and sixth business rules, which are each borrowing can have many books and each book can contain many in the many borrowing. This is many-to-many relationship and there have the bridge entity called borrowing status between it. The primary key for book is book ID and borrowing status take the primary key of borrowing and book ID to link it as its unique identifier. Next, let's take a look for the 7 and 9 number of business rule. Each book is written by many authors and each author writes many books. This is clearly to see that this is many-to-many relationship. So between those entities as bridge entity called author book. For author entity has author ID as primary key and book entity has book ID as primary key. For the last business rule to explain is number 8. It sounds as there are 2 book types which are non-fiction and fiction. So these 2 subtypes have book ID as primary key.
So I want to show you the simulation of the library management system. So as usual, the librarian must log into the account to use the system, enter the email and then password and click sign in. So there are several tables that we have here. For the first table is student table. This table has student information. You can find out how many borrowings they have made by clicking on their first name. For example, you click here, Afika. Africa has made 2 borrowings. The first borrowings, she borrowed 1 book, and the second borrowing, she borrowed 5 books. If you want to create new student, click here. After you're done, click create. So it will be listed here. But if you want to change any information, you can click edit. For example, you want to change the student faculty, FSKM to Faculty of Law. Apply changes. And if you want to delete any row, click here and then delete. Next, I want to show you how the librarian registers new borrowings made by the student. For example, there is a student named Nelly wants to borrow a book. So you can click here, enter the borrow ID and the borrow date. For example, the 1st of January. And she must return the book at the 1st of February. This system will calculate the return date automatically, so Nelly must return the book before the due date. For this one, is for you to put the date of when Nelly has returned the book, but if she has not returned the book yet, just let it null. The borrow quantity is the book quantity she wants to borrow, for example, 2 books. And the deadline is still 0. Student ID, you can choose Nelly, and librarian ID, Jaen, and then click create. But in case when Nelly has borrowed the book at the 1st of December and must return the book at the 1st of January, which means that Nelly has not returned the book after the due date, the delay fine will be calculated. But if she has returned the book, for example, she returned the book at the 2nd of January, and the delay fine will be 0. Why? Because Nelly has returned the book and also has paid the delay fine. So, Nelly wants to borrow 2 books which are in court block and another country. So you need to put them in the borrowing status table. Click create. And then click the borrow ID and the book ID she wants to borrow. So enter the borrow ID and the book ID. And then enter again the same borrow ID and another book ID. Click create. So this one, another country and in court block. These are the list of the books available in the library. The librarian can register new book by clicking here and enter all the information of the book. After done, click create. Tony is the author of the new book that we have registered just now. You can go to the author book to enter the author ID and the book ID. Tony has the author ID 100104, and then you can go to the author book, the author ID and the book ID that we have registered just now, and then click create. For the fiction table, this is the list of books which are categorized as fiction book. There are synopses and characters of each book. Same goes to the non-fiction table, but this one provides sources and book edition. The first question is, list the students of who have not returned the book yet and the delay fine charges, grouped by student number. So, this is our answer. And this is the result. For the second question, how many times the students have borrowed and how many books? So this is the answer. And this is the result. The third question, list of students that have capital A in a second letter of his or her first name and the total number of borrowing. So this is the answer. And this is the result. The fourth question is list of fiction and non-fiction books. So this is the answer. And this is the result. The last question is the name of authors who are from Malaysia and list their books. So this is the answer. And this is the result.
So next, I will present about the interactive form for this database system. So this is a table student and there's action button that you can make a column. You can filter data according to the data that you want, and also you can drag a chart from here. Moreover, you can group by the data and make a fiber, column, and row. Last but not least, you also can download the data that you want. Each table have a same button action where you can easily make a report from this interactive form. So next, the dashboard page. The first chart is the total of students according to their faculty. The purpose of this chart is to inform the librarian and the library that which faculty that had their historical book. So for example, let's say you want to choose FSKM's faculty. So you can describe other faculty and you can see here that FSKM had the most highest borrowed book. So the next chart is the total books of fiction and non-fiction that have in the library. Based on this total chart, the total book of non-fiction is 5 and fiction book is 7. This chart can help the librarian to know which type of book that most borrowed by the student. And you also can select which fiction that you want. For this example, if you want to choose fiction book, so it will show the total of fiction books only, which is 7. Next, the third chart is the total of dinner file collected from 2022 to 2023. This bar chart can calculate revenue that had been made by delivery. The total fine that collected is 50.6%.